That's Chinatown, baby. Oh, you know what, GCM? I wish Cameron would call in about the topic as well. That would be most excellent. But, yeah, we're going to talk about China this morning. Rock and roll. Let's do this. Good morning. I ain't gonna lie, I'm starting to wonder where everybody is. I know what happened. I know what's happened. Okay, so I actually, that's fair. I expect a little lower viewership this morning because I ended yesterday's show by saying I may or may not be doing the show this morning. And frankly, what's going on, there's a Veterans Association that meets up in Johns Creek, this morning, what is this, the second Wednesday of every month or the third? It's today. In fact, they're getting together right now. So I would have had to leave about an hour ago, and I've got some business to handle this morning that I wouldn't have been able to get to after the show if I had gone to do that. So I didn't get to do it this month, and that's fine. I'll catch them next month, and everything will be okay. Anyway. It's a breakfast. It's a get together, camaraderie, and networking with other veteran-owned businesses. It's a good group called Vet Buds. So those of you to whom that applies, you should definitely look them up on Facebook. Check out Vet Buds, and I'll be talking about that more and more in the future as well. This morning, however, we're talking about China. China. Oh, Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole. And so is Joe Biden. So what's going on right now? APEC is meeting. APEC is, let's see, from Reuters, we have an explanation. APEC, what you need to know about San Francisco summit. So we'll take a peek at this real quick. There's a caption. What is APEC and what to watch for? APEC accounts for about 62% of global GDP and almost half of global trade. It is unique in grouping economies rather than nations, allowing participation of Chinese-ruled Hong Kong and democratically governed Taiwan, which China claims as its own. It does not, though, include India, the world's most populous country, which is itself very interesting. India is a funny creature. You look at India, and it's basically one great big ball of abject poverty, so horrific that the poorest and most put upon homeless in America cannot even fathom the depth of poverty. And then right smack in the middle of it is the shining jewel that is Dubai, where it's just an outrageous amount of wealth concentrated in one place, unapologetically wealthy. APEC operates on the basis of non-binding commitments with decisions reached by consensus and commitments undertaken on a voluntary basis. The leaders will gather from Wednesday to Friday following preparatory meetings of senior finance officials and ministers. An annual APEC CEO summit runs from Tuesday to Thursday. This right here APEC has become a stage for strategic competition between the U.S. and China, the world's two largest economies, and all eyes will be on a bilateral summit scheduled for Wednesday in the San Francisco Bay Area between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping. Only their second in-person meeting since Biden took office in January 2021, at least on the record. You got to wonder how many times they've been on the phone together, because it has become so very, very clear. You know, we're way beyond the tinfoil hat conspiracy speculation now. It has become deeply and painfully clear from evidence that has arisen both through the individual testimony of involved parties and through the documents obtained through Hunter Biden's laptop, despite every effort of the colluding FBI, CIA, and mainstream media apparatus under the direction, apparently, of the Biden administration and the Democrat National Committee. It has become painfully evident that Joe Biden was purchased personally by the Chinese Communist Party at least several years before he ran for election in 2020. That the two of them are meeting is a puppet show. It's a gag. It's pure theater. And speaking of pure theater, I want to take a look for a moment at some of the videos that we have coming out of San Francisco right now. Okay, let me back up a little bit. San Francisco. Yo, I went to San Francisco in, oh God, when was it? 08, no, 07, 08, in that area. Went to an Ozfest there, went and did some shopping in some of the rich districts, actually with my buddy Legion there, who bought that super gay t-shirt. I didn't tell him that he looked super gay until we got out on the street, and that my guys was pure comedy. And we went to a brew pub, and we had these amazing chocolate oatmeal stouts with some cheese trays and tapas type of stuff, and it was spectacular. Had a great time. Mario, you remember that trip? I mean, we were there to drop our buddy Chewed off at LAX. Or no, I'm sorry, not LA. We're there to drop our buddy Chewed off at the airport at, I forget the name of the airport there. Legion says it was metrosexual, okay? That was a thing back then. Yes, Legion. And because metrosexual was a thing back then, we have the tranny problems that we have today. It's the Will and Grace effect. Tolerance equals capitulation. And thank you for your continued service in that regard, my dude. But we were there on that trip. The three of us, me and Mario and Shoot, piled up in my pick-em-up truck, and that's for you. That's for you, my man. And we dropped Chewed off at the airport, and we were meeting my dad and my uncle Bobo there, and then they were coming back to hang out, and we went back to Monterey. And Bobo, yeah, Sergeant Major, there he is. I met you in San Francisco also. This is the same trip, old man. So we met Dad and Bobo in San Fran, and went from there. We went up to Napa, and we went up to Napa Valley and went, toward cheesemongers, wine shops. This is completely off the total topic, but and then we went to a golf tournament at Pebble Beach and smoked some wonderful cigars and met some interesting celebrity characters, and I mean that was a hell of a good time. And at the time, San Francisco was, I mean, it had problems, it had bums, it had homeless people, but it didn't feel back then, it didn't feel like it had those problems in dramatic excess over most other major cities. Now, y'all know me, I tend to stay away from large cities generally. I live closest to Atlanta, and I take contracts where I go into Atlanta to. I shoot a lot of multi-million-dollar homes in like Buckhead and Brookhaven, big beautiful houses, and I often have conversations with those agents and the sellers about the problems that are seeping out of the Atlanta proper and getting into those richer, nicer neighborhoods, and they are a problem. They are affecting the area. When you look at San Francisco in the 10 years since the last time I was there, and we've seen the videos, we've seen the photographs, we've heard people talk about being there, and it has changed dramatically. A friend of the show, Robin, is living in San Francisco right now, and she tells me about what she sees down there. I wish I could have gotten her on the show this morning. That would have been interesting. But in the 10 years intervening since that trip, there's human feces, just people shitting in the streets, has become such a problem that they have an app for that, and they're spending a couple of $1 billion a year, or I'm sorry, several $1 million a year on salaries for a government employee program to put people out on the street responding to reports from an app just to clean up human feces on the streets, and that's across the whole city. Excuse me. You've got business owners in even wealthy shopping districts complaining that there are homeless people camping out on their front doorsteps of their businesses, and the police will not get rid of them, won't move them away, anything like that. But then we decide to host the She-Man America Haters Club. And okay, that may be a little unfair. We were talking about APEC, not the UN, right? We're talking about APEC, not the UN, not the oh my God, what's the other one? NATO. We're not talking about NATO or the UN. Properly the She-Man America Haters Clubs. But all of a sudden, they got it all cleaned up.
Here we are, downtown San Francisco, and as you can see, they got it blocked off. I'm not a big fan of these barricades. It's sad our country's not safe enough. It's sad they got to put up barricades.
Yeah, and how'd that happen, shithead? And Libs of TikTok says it clearly. They cleaned up the streets of San Francisco for China's dictator. They can fix the crisis plaguing our cities. They just don't want to because they hate you. Now, that's a great hot take from a famously controversial personality on Twitter. Yeah, that's a great hot take. But is it just the take? Is it just the hot take from a famously conservative and controversial figure?
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true.
Oh, it's not. It's not the, it's not just a hot take from an antagonistic conservative. It's the case. Gavin Newsom just said it for you right there. Yeah, we can fix the problems you have, and we're not going to. We'll pretend to fix the problems, to make face for the enemy. So the enemies of the American people are hosting the enemies of the American people in America. That's what APEC is about. That's the point. The article that I was reading explaining what APEC is talks about it being a cooperative system for healthy competition, etc. One of the biggest problems that we have with China at a strategic and national security level is their just unrelenting and unapologetic theft of intellectual property. And, it's one thing to make another product, to make a competing product, but the theft of intellectual property. Let me clarify something for you. Property is a key component of liberty. You have no liberty without property. Because an important part of your rights are the therewith entangled responsibilities. And a key part of those responsibilities are the therewith interconnected authority. If you have complete and total freedom, you can do anything you want, and you have no authority to do anything, then you haven't any liberty at all. In order to have the authority to act, you must have responsibilities over which that authority grants you the power to be able to act in a responsible and custodial manner with regard to that property. You know, your wife and children in this context are property of a sort, because while you have the liberty to enjoy the benefits of your marriage and all that entails, having some authority to govern how the family conducts itself, you know, what's the division of labor? Who washes the dishes? Who does the laundry? Who goes out and makes the money? Right? Commanding some authority to make that decision, or at least to engage in a collaborative effort to come to those ideals, is part of your responsibility to be a good shepherd, to be a good custodian of the family. Right? You have a responsibility to feed your children, which means that you must necessarily have the authority to engage in activities to that end. And in order to actually command that authority, you have to have the liberty to move freely about the conduct of that authority. This is true if you're talking about your firearms that you need to maintain, you need to keep in good working order, and you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to conduct yourself responsibly, maintain that weapon, carry it at all times, and train yourself and be prepared to use it judiciously in the time of need. That responsibility cannot exist without the authority to act in your own self-defense, defense of others' property, and the freedom to carry it about with you. That's why the Second Amendment is so sacrosanct, right? So the freedom, the authority, the responsibility, property. The threat that China represents to intellectual property saps the responsibility and the authority from American citizens. And by sapping the responsibility from American citizens, it works hand in glove with our leftist leaders in order to further develop and implement systems like the social credit system, the artificial attenuation of maturity, the artificial extension of adolescence into adulthood, the slow erosion of individual responsibility, and the ever deepening dependence on the state for your basic needs and requirements. The sapping of IP is a part of that. On a somewhat unrelated topic, so is fucking property taxes, and that's why they have to go, by the way. I just learned yesterday that Georgia is the only state in the nation where disabled combat veterans have to pay property taxes. Boy, let me tell you, I was super happy about that one. So, the hosting China, when I say China is the enemy, like I pointed out a second ago, their theft of IP, of intellectual property in the United States, is just one of the many things that you should consider when you talk about China being an enemy of America. Check this out. This article's from just a few months ago. This is an issue that we talked about that came to light and we discussed in pretty substantial detail back during 2020 before the election. At least, but this article is only, let me see. I gotta, excuse me. Okay, yeah, this article's from April of this year. So just a few months old. And come on, give me the reader view. There we go. What the hell? Come on. Okay. At least 6 more secret Chinese police stations in the U.S. I'm sorry. What's that? This has been going on for a while now. The Chinese have their own police stations in the U.S. If I wish Donald Trump had been impeached for this, and Barack Obama, and George W. Bush, and absolutely President Biden. You're telling me that you're allowing foreign governments to conduct law enforcement activities on our domestic soil without repercussion? That a foreign government thinks that they can establish a law enforcement facility like a police station on our territory, in our territory. Any president who doesn't order the U.S. Army to go and eliminate that obviously strategic military target is in clear dereliction of his duty. And as much as I hate to say it, I have to include Donald Trump in that category as well, because this was going on while he was in office as well. Now, if I want to be extraordinarily charitable but also fair, I could say that it's just one of many, many things that's wrong that the president should give his attention to, and he is but one man. But in order to be that charitable to the Donald and to remain fair, I have to extend that charitable interpretation to every other president that's allowed this to happen on his watch. And frankly, as much as I want to see Trump win in 2024, I'll let him go if I can see the rest of them behind bars or executed for this crime. Because you're allowing the enemy to operate within our sovereign territory with impunity. And that is sickening. So we see China gave us the COVID. China is a massive threat to our national and economic security. China is the number one thief of intellectual property, which in and of itself depresses values of not just intellectual property itself, but of the products of that property, right? So we're talking about cheap Chinese knockoffs depressing prices for American competitors, that kind of thing, right? Oh, Mom, I'm glad you asked. I was about to get to that. The other thing, right around the same time we had this revelation about them running the secret police stations in the U.S., we learned that there were and this is a technical term, a metric fucking shitload of Chinese intelligence assets just working as professors or attending as students in every major university in the country. Essentially, they're running kinetic intelligence activities to promote social justice, wokeness, and anything else that builds them toward the development of the social credit score. The clear end goal of the Chinese Communist Party, the World Economic Forum, NATO, UN, and of course APEC by extension, is a one world government panopticon of social credit score, where you will be actively unpersoned, not killed. You'll die as a result of it. You'll be unpersoned, and eventually die as a result of your dispersonization through the mechanism of the social credit score. But no, let's clean up the streets of San Francisco and put on a pretty face. Legion mentioned earlier the Joe I forget the name of, there it is, Jotemkin Village, so North Korea has one town, one city that has all the lights on, and it looks pretty. But have you ever seen a aerial photograph of North Korea at night? From the air, it's very telling, right? Here's a pretty good example. Right. There's a pretty good example. This is South Korea, right? Right around here, that's Seoul, capital, right? And you see, you get out to the edge, and you see less and less light, more and more village, and this is North Korea. This is North Korea. And that's Pyongyang. That's the capital right there. There's another city right along the border here, just north of the demilitarized zone, that is dressed up as a propaganda city as well. And that's part of the ongoing propaganda mechanism of North Korea. But, frankly, this is the difference between capitalism and communism. Capitalism, everybody has lights if they want them. Everybody has food. Everybody has power. Hell, everybody has TV if they want it. Hot and cold running water. Indoor plumbing. Communism. Nope. And to be fair, this isn't all North Korea. This is North Korea. A lot of that is China. A lot of that blank space just above where the peninsula starts, like North Korea stops right above where the peninsula connects to the mainland. Yeah, you want to talk about the difference between communism and capitalism? Look at pictures from the sky. Communists are hungry and cold and in the dark. Another large part of the problem with communists is Legion points out they have a prettier night sky, at least. You know what? There is some truth and some beauty in that. Like right now, we're trying to buy a house and move further out into the country, and I one of the things I'm definitely looking forward to is going outside with minimum light pollution to look up at the night sky. Legion, you remember that you probably don't. You probably remember this to some degree, but I think because of your posting, you probably didn't see it in quite the extreme that I did. I know that you were in the Middle East for a while, but you were in a more metropolitan part than the absolute outback of Afghanistan that I was in, where like there were no lights, right? And I served on some blackout bases out there where, once the sun goes, there are no lights. You you put on night vision goggles if you wanted to go use the bathroom, because turning on your flashlight was a great way to get shot. Right? No lights. Right? You smoked close to the HESCO barrier because you didn't want to give yourself away with that cigarette cherry. No lights. And I tell you what, the night sky, when it's that dark, especially after a new moon, it's amazing. It's staggering. It really is. So, you got something there. Maybe communism is the answer, and we can just go back to living on food and just living off the land. Y'all are gonna get Legion, you're gonna get me down a bad rabbit hole where I suggest we should switch to a system of communism, let all world governments collapse, and then see who survives. Man could dream, can't he? Well, guys, thanks for joining me this morning. I hope you had a good cup of coffee with us and got a few chuckles out of the show, because I did try to crack a few jokes along the way this morning. But it is a pretty serious and dark topic. And so we love you. We'll see you tomorrow. And remember, don't trust China. China is asshole. Love you guys. Take care.